Okay, guys, forget everything you thought you knew about turrets. Unless you already know how to make a rope turret, then why are you even watching this? I'm going to show you how to make a rope turret, which I just recently learned how to do it. And it's actually pretty simple. The only thing we really absolutely need is precision alignment. So make sure you got that. Precision's also going to be pretty useful. First thing, what does a rope turret do? Let's see here. Let me just drop this tank really quick. Whoa! See how the turret is like wiggling all around and stuff under the inertia of the gun? A rope turret counteracts that. See how there's basically no wobble here at all? I mean, there's a little bit of wobble, but that's just because of the way I'm moving it. But, like... Rope turret, basically what a rope turret does, here's an example, is it stabilizes the gun using rigid ropes directly with your base prop. And some of you might just look at this example and go, Eureka, and just be able to make the rope turret right away. But I'm going to show you how to make it for those of you who are a little unfamiliar with precision alignment. Basically, this is what we're going to make. These ropes here, the front ropes are attached to the pivot point, like the elevation pivot on the gun. And then these ropes back here are reinforced on the top and bottom of the gun, and they're actually attached to the base prop itself. This means that your turret base prop is basically not even needed. It can weigh 1 pound, and it's not gonna affect the stability of your gun at all, which is very, very useful. You can basically save a whole ton or two off of your tank just from that. But this is also much more stable. You still need the turret base prop most of the time because many turret chips rely on the turret base prop, and also your parenting chip for the turret needs to be attached to something stable. Otherwise, it would be moving around with the gun. So anyway, let's get started. Let's see if we can retrofit one of my tanks that doesn't use a rope turret with a rope turret, and I'll explain what I'm doing along the way. Okay, so here we are with my SH21B I've gone ahead and removed the ammo from the turret, so it's going to be a little bit easier for you to tell what I'm doing, but it's actually pretty easy to retrofit this onto your tanks. So you shouldn't need to do that in your own time. I'm just doing that for make the tutorial a little bit easier. I've gone ahead and moved the seat out of the way because it's going to get in the way, and I've made the turret transparent so we can tell exactly what we're doing. But other than that, I haven't changed anything. Okay, so to get started, I'm just going to remove all the constraints on the gun itself, which will actually re-add the same constraints, but I just want to make sure that nothing gets messed up, because it's really important that where your gun pivots is exactly where those ropes are. Otherwise, you'll have problems. But we do actually need an axis between this, the turret base plate, and the gun. So if you know where that pivot point is, you don't even need to do this. You can just literally just add the ropes around it, and it'll reinforce it the same way. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove all constraints with the R on my remover tool. And then let's get started. So first, we need to basically make like a template to attach the ropes. You could do this with just precision alignment if you wanted to, and not even add these props. But I personally find it a lot easier to work with precision alignment by using props like templates. So we're gonna use this prop for our vertical pieces here, our vertical ropes that go up on top and on the bottom of the gun. And then let's see here, we're gonna use this prop for the pivot axis on the gun. Okay, so how do we place these on the gun in the correct place? So firstly, we have to figure out where we want our gun to actually pivot. which I believe on this tank is just on the center of the main armor plate. So I'm going to go ahead and place 0.2 on mass center of the turret frontal armor piece here. That's where the gun is going to pivot up and down. So you just put this wherever you want. Like if you want your gun pivoting up and down out here, put it out here. But we're going to put it right there. Then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to mass center this prop, and we're just going to move it to 0.2 right there inside the turret. So this prop, we know right on its mass center is right where we want that gun pivoting, which is exactly what we want. Then placing this might be a little bit trickier, but we basically need to make sure it's right in the center of the turret ring, or right on our rotational axis. So we want it to be exactly in the center of our turret base prop. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mass center this prop, and then we're going to mass center our turret base prop, and then we'll go ahead and we'll move this prop into the turret. Okay, now here's where one of our first problems is going to be. We can't actually see the top of this, which we can move it around with precision and make it work, but I'm just going to push it upwards so it sticks out of the top of the gun and we can actually see it, because it's not that important where these points are, just as long as they're separate from one another. So let's see, how does that look? That comes out of the top of the turret, and this one's well below the gun, so that should be good. It doesn't matter if the ropes stick out of the top of the turret, because ACF does not hit the ropes, it only hits the props. Okay, so we know this prop is right in the middle of our turret ring and right in the middle of our turret base prop. And we know this prop is right on the center of this frontal armor piece, and that's right where we want our pivot point to be. So what do we do next? Here's what we do. We go ahead and we go into precision, and we're going to go ahead and use hit pose, and we're going to put 0.1 right on top of this this prop here, the stick for the rotational axis. And we're also going to make sure, you have to do this. If you don't do this, it's not going to work, okay? You want to make sure you attach this point to the base prop. Not the turret base prop, but the actual base prop of the whole tank. This is a key to everything right here, these next attaches, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click on our tank base prop. Make sure we have 0.1 selected, and then we're going to click attach. And you'll see the green line will go to your tank base prop. So that means we're attached there. So that's absolutely essential. That means when we attach a rope between 0.1 and the front of the tank, the rope's actually going to be attached down here, even though the rope's up here. That's like the main advantage you got with precision alignment, if you didn't know that. Okay. Then now we need to put the points on the front of the tank, the pivot point up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I've got snap to center lines and snap to edges turned on. Go into hit pose, and then we're going to put 0.2 right on the side, as center as we can on this this piece here. So see it snap to the center. We know that's the middle. That's why it's important to have snap to center lines and edges. You don't really need edges, but center lines on, because that'll put that point right in the middle of here, which is inside our armor plate. So it makes it a little bit easier. You can place all these props just by going into the menu and moving them around with the coordinates if you want to. But like I said, I think that's just a bit easier. So there's 0.2. It's on there. And then we're also going to put 0.3 right on the other side of this prop here. So the ropes are going to come forward off 0.1 and attach here and here. But now we just got to make sure 0.2 and 3 are attached to the gun. So once again, we are going to right click on the gun, make it blue. We're going to go into the Q menu, and we're going to click 0.2 and click attach. And we're going to click 0.3 and click attach. So now we know these points are now attached to the gun by the green lines. And we're ready to make the ropes already. So how do we make the ropes? Well, we go into the R menu. we go into Constraint tab. We go ahead and we find the rope. We click the rope. We set it up with whatever we want. Ideally, you'd probably have your width of the rope set to 0 so you can't see it, but I'm going to go ahead and leave mine on just for the tutorial. And then we want to attach ropes from point 1 to point 2 and point 1 to point 3. So we've got point 1 selected here, and then we've got point 2 selected here, and we're going to click on Create Constraint. Creates one rope, and then we're going to click on point 3 for the second place, and then we're going to click Create Constraint. So now we've got a rope going from point 1, which is actually attached to the tank base prop, to point 2, which is attached to the gun, and point 3, which is attached to the gun. Okay? So now we just got to do the same thing, but we got to do it with the bottom of our rotational axis. So all we have to do for that is we just got to go ahead and get point 1 again, hit pose, hit it right in the center of this prop, like that. And we got to make sure we right click the tank base prop again and we attach it. If you don't do that, it's going to screw everything up. Okay, so now we're attached to the base prop again. We go into the R menu and we go ahead and we make a rope from point 1 to point 2 and point 1 to point 3. So there we go. Our ropes are now in place. Let's go ahead and give it a little test here, and I'll show you what the axis is really important for. So here we go. Let's go ahead and unfreeze this thing. Okay, sorry for the jump cut there, folks. For some reason, the rope turret example caused my entire server to crash. But I think it's probably a problem with my server, so I wouldn't be worried about it because we're on my server and it's working just fine. Okay, so now I have to show you there's just one more step to this whole process, and it's a pretty basic one. So first we can remove these template pieces. They're not going to do anything anymore except get in the way. And then let's go ahead and unfreeze the tank. Okay, so it looks pretty steady, but you'll notice the turret is now spinning independently of the gun. The gun looks like it's locked in place, but that's because the turret chip. So how do we get the turret to spin with the gun? Well, that's pretty simple. We literally just attach the gun to the turret base the way we've always done it. We just take an axis with precision alignment. We put it right where these ropes are. And that'll make the, that instead of the gun being balanced on the turret base prop, it's already balanced to those ropes. And then the turret base prop will turn because of the axis. So we do that the basic way. We just take, we already know where the gun pivot point is, so we go ahead and we mass center there. And then we go ahead and we attach this point to the gun to make sure our axis is attached to the gun, not to the front plate. Then we go ahead and we mass center the turret base prop, which is where our parenting chip is for the turret pieces. And it'll already be attached automatically because we're actually attaching an axis to these. Then we go ahead and we get hit pose plus hit normal on a line. And we make the line where we want our axis to be, because we want our axis to rotate this way. So that's what this is going to do. Then we go into the R menu. We click on Constraints. We go to Axis. We click point 1 and point 2. So we're accessing point 1 to point 2. And we're going to use line 1 as our rotational axis. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to create constraint. And that's all you got to do. So let's go ahead and get rid of... Oops, sorry about that. I just had a brain fart. We go ahead and get rid of that. We can delete all these points and shit. And now let's go ahead and unfreeze this tank. Perfectly stable. Now we can get inside. And the turret is rotating with our rope turret. The machine gun's up there because because I deleted some things when I made this. But now we've got a perfectly stable rope turret. And just to compare that again, let's go ahead and spawn the original SH-21 without without that rope turret, just so we can have a side-by-side comparison here. So here it is here. Turret's wobbling all over the place. See that? Whenever I drop it up and down, the turret is just like wobbling like crazy. Grab this thing, you don't have that wobble. It's perfectly still. That's because on this tank, the gun is actually attached to the turret base prop, which actually means since it's attached to the turret base prop, we can just take out our weight tool. We can make this prop here weigh 1. We just lost 1,500 pounds. Turret is still perfectly stable. What happens if we make the base prop on this one weigh 1? Whoops, I missed it. There we go. Whoa! Whoa! So even if you're not that interested in the stability aspect of the rope turret, saving 1.5 tons is a pretty big deal. Anyway, hopefully this helped any of you guys who are still having trouble with the rope turret idea. I just wanted to make a visualization. I know there's already some tutorials out there, but I don't know if any of them are really narrated. This should help anyone who kind of has an intermediate to advanced understanding of the way Gary's Mod stuff works, but just gets a little confused with precision alignment. And hopefully this made things clear, and my rambling doesn't get in the way too much. Thanks. Have a great one. And the server crashed. The server crashed. This is great. This is a wonderful, wonderful turn of events here today, folks. My server crashed. My single player didn't work right. My server crashed. But I'm just going to jump cut it, and I'll probably put this at the end of the video.